Holy sneaky references, Batman. Whoops, wrong franchise.
You're not Superman, you know.
Dang it, mate, stop crossing the streams. Oh, and be less aggressively hot, please. Gonna miss that old minx. But at least we're back to where we need to be. The MCU, home to seemingly a bajillion Easter eggs. That's right, today we're talking Easter eggs in the MCU. Marvel is well known for sneaking in all kinds of references not only to the comic books from which these billion-dollar cash cows are derived, but also to movies in their own franchise, both past and present. Some are obvious, some make you turn to your comic book nerd friend and ask what the heck just happened so you can sound smart when leaving the theater. Remember theaters? Oh man. Anyway, how about we dig into, I don't know, let's say 25 Easter eggs from the full breadth of the MCU. There's no way we'll be able to hit on even a quarter of all of them, so here are a relative handful that make my fan brain all quivery and junk. Kinda like whenever that babe Rosemary Harris shows up. Oh, I must be June, because I am after May. Now let's start with the one that started it all. Iron Man. Of course, we all know how the story went. Marvel took on a B-list character no one had any faith in, added a stinger with a good old bit of Sam Jackson as Nick Fury, and bada bang bada boom, a franchise juggernaut was born. Amidst the many nuggets sprinkled throughout the 2008 film is a sneaky look at Captain America's shield in the background. Right there. See it? Yeah, that thing. Of course, it did result in some retconning, since in the MCU continuity, that shield shouldn't even be there. Oh, and it's not even vibranium, that Tony Stark, such a filthy casual. Of course, this would be taken care of in Iron Man 2, but in the moment, man, we really thought he was working for Cap. Now straight up, when I decided to do 25 Easter eggs, I forgot that there were only 23 MCU films currently available, and even though I could count Budapest showing up in the Black Widow trailer, I'll just leave that as a fun extra egg and instead point out that when Pepper Potts is making like a spy in Obadiah Stane's office, she comes across these files that tie in directly to the career of Stane's actor, Jeff Bridges, who of course famously starred in The Big Lebowski. Even as a villainous megalomaniac, the dude abides.
I'm the dude.
Way back in 2008's Incredible Hulk, the label on the serum used by Blonsky to turn into Abomination is credited to the program Weapons Plus, which was the same program responsible for the creation of Wolverine's famed endoskeleton, otherwise known as Weapon X. Now that Disney has gobbled up all of Fox's properties, it's high time to bring that character into the MCU fold. Just over a decade after it was referenced in their second film. Iron Man 2 features a brief appearance by a world map containing various notable MCU locations, including Tony's Malibu pad, the small New Mexico town where a majority of Thor takes place, New York City, potentially in reference to the Hulk versus Abomination fight, Cap's crash in Greenland, there's Norway right there, probably on account of Tonsberg, probably on account of Tonsberg, where Red Skull found the Tesseract, Wakanda, and possibly Atlantis, home of Namor the Submariner, although it could also be the location of the raft, which would show up years later in Civil War. Now in Thor and its sequels, we get glimpses at the various artifacts housed in Odin's vault, including a tantalizing early look at the Infinity Gauntlet before we even found out Thanos would be the big bad. Of course, years later in Thor Ragnarok, Hela would come around and, utilizing her own special version of Antiques Roadshow, make her own judgment.
Fake.
We also get the Warlock's Eye, the Tuning Fork, the Casket of Ancient Winters,
Weak.
the Tablet of Life and Time, the Eternal Flame, and for a short period, the Crown of Surtur, which, yeah, that went great. Meanwhile, over in Steve Rogers' debut flick, Captain America: The First Avenger, the first ever issue of Captain America is recreated during this delightful little montage of Cap punching Hitler. And it never gets tiring. Alrighty, sending skull-faced Nazis to space is maybe a little bit too lighthearted for my tastes, so let's turn to one of the darker references in 2012's Avengers, the time Bruce Banner ate a bullet. And yes, that is me being very coy about the very disturbing moment cut from The Incredible Hulk, wherein Edward Norton's Banner tries to end things once and for all.
I didn't see an end, so I put a bullet in my mouth and the other guy spit it out.
Yikes. Okay, this next one, this is a fun one. First off, please recall that the insanely underrated Iron Man 3 is also a Christmas movie. Sure, it deals with PTSD, but like, whee, look at all that snow! So, 2 years before Jarvis made his transition into superheroics as Vision, there's a stocking in the background of this Iron Man 3 scene. And what are the colors? Well, red, green, and yellow. The same colors famously garishly worn by Vision. Coincidence? Or a sneaky spoiler hiding in plain sight? Speaking of Iron Man 3 and the feeling of fan disappointment, in Thor: The Dark World, Stellan Skarsgård's character, Dr. Erik Selvig, was not treated in the best way by what many consider the worst film in the franchise. However, in one of his mini "oh look, I'm a wackadoo crazy pants" scenes, he jots down a bunch of mumbo-jumbo on a chalkboard, including a reference to the 616 universe. Of course, if you're a comic book fan, you know that the main comic book continuity in the Marvel universe is 616. Alrighty, enough of the controversial flicks, let's dig into Captain America and the Winter Soldier, a film that was pitched as a superhero action variant on spy thrillers like 3 Days of the Condor, which of course famously starred Robert Redford, good friends of, hold up, oh god. Gosh, I can't think while I'm hungry. Hey, you got any pasta sauce in there that I could just like slide down my gullet? Ooh, yeah, oh, that Newman zone. Awesome. For the kids in the audience, that's Paul Newman. He was in movies with Robert Redford. He was the bad guy. This one. Now, much like Odin's vault in Thor, the Collector's Menagerie plays host to a whole bunch of Easter eggs seemingly meant just to poke and prod at all us nerdlings in the audience. These include a whole bunch of alien life forms, many of which are shown living civilian lives in the Guardians films, which raises unfortunate implications. We also get a Chitauri, some of the carnivorous slugs from Slither, and a sovereign cocoon that led to tons of Adam Warlock speculation. The most notable exhibits for Marvel fans were Cosmo the Space Dog, who here doesn't seem to have the same level of prestige as in the comics, and Howard the Duck, who infamously showed up during Guardians' end credit scene, voiced by Seth Green. Of course, Howard is most infamously known for his 1986 feature film, where he and Leah Thompson, you know what, let's move on. Fans of Joss Whedon's Angel might have picked up on that series' omnipresent big bad, Wolfram and Hart, showing up in Thor's wackadoo Vision in Age of Ultron. Well, kinda. Joss saw fit to include these guys in masks, a wolf, a ram, and a hart, which is a medieval word for stag. Ant-Man debuted in the comic book Tales to Astonish number 27, wherein Henry, Hank Pym, makes the always super smart, definitely not bad decision to use his experimental serum on himself and winds up shrinking to the size of, well, an ant. That comic is briefly mentioned by the film Ant-Man's main baddie, Darren Cross.
Tales to Astonish.
Hear that? He said the thing. And heck, let's toss in another Ant-Man egg, huh? Dude's always getting short shrift. Ba-dum-tsh. Speaking of hit and miss jokes, noted OG member of Saturday Night Live, Garrett Morris, was the first to ever portray a live-action Ant-Man, albeit as a parody in the season 4 sketch Superhero Party. He would go on to appear in the character's big screen debut as this startled driver. Back to Easter eggs that are literally just copy and paste comic book cover shoutouts, in Captain America Civil War, we get 2 covers reproduced. First up is this downright iconic image of Hawkeye about to shoot Ant-Man at the reader with his handy-dandy bow and arrow, which we get in full motion during the big airport fight. Then let's turn to the big fight between Cap and Iron Man, which takes reference from Civil War number 7, which is also pretty dang iconic. Bonus Easter egg, you gotta love that Bluth Company stair car in the background. Just before Dr. Stephen Strange takes his eyes off the road and crashes his car, thereby leading to his ascendance as Sorcerer Supreme, which is a mixed message by the way, he takes note of a handful of potential surgeries to take on. Among them we get 2 potential shoutouts.
A 35-year-old Air Force colonel crushed his lower spine in some kind of experimental armor.
Now that first one is pretty obviously referencing James Rhodes' mishap in Civil War. We also hear about a
22-year-old female with an electronic implant in her brain to control schizophrenia struck by lightning.
Now at the time, a lot of folks online postulated this might be Captain Marvel, which doesn't really make a lick of sense, not only because it doesn't work with her origin story, but we've also seen via that film that it's just not the case. However, some of those much nerdier than I came up with a better theory. What if it's Daredevil baddie, Typhoid Mary? She famously has 3 personalities awoken by a traumatic event. It's super out there, of course, and the problematic nature of her power set might be a bit much for Marvel. Oh, wait, what's that? Oh, she's in Iron Fist Season 2? Well, I didn't watch that show. The next one was a perplexing Easter egg for general audiences at the time, but if you know anything about Adam Warlock, then you probably recognized his sorta introduction in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. In the film, he's created by Aisha to be the ultimate weapon of the Sovereign in order to defeat our titular Guardians. This is not how he's created in the comics. In fact, the Sovereign was made up for Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's close enough for government work and gives him a more direct link to the Guardians, who he will presumably join up with at some point per his comic book counterpart. Alright, how about a quick one from Spider-Man Homecoming? See Principal Morita here? He's meant to be a direct descendant of Jim Morita, a US Army soldier who notably worked with Captain America as part of the Howling Commandos during World War II. He even has a framed photo of Grandpa Morita in his office, and he's even played by the same actor, Kenneth Choi. This next one really couldn't have been caught until director Taika Waititi unveiled it himself during an interview, the shake weight. You know the one. See, while Waititi was shooting his small role in Green Lantern, during the dark times, he was spending a lot of time walking around in his hotel room. While there, he decided to just order everything he saw on TV. Among those things was a shake weight, which was just becoming popular in 2010. He just decided he had to put it in as a fun little reference. Anyway, let's take a journey to Wakanda. Or actually, let's just drop by Oakland, California. No need to make the long trip. Remember the kid who's playing basketball and asks T'Challa who he is? That's Alex R. Hibbert, the kid from Moonlight who played Little. Not only that, he gets the last line.
Who are you?
Man, kid gets to be in a Best Picture winner and then also gets the last line in one of the few comic book movies nominated for Best Picture. That is sick, man. That is super sick. Now on to Infinity War. There are a ton of great comic callbacks in this massive Avengers film, including a wonderful reproduction of some really trippy Infinity Stone gags. But there's one non-Marvel reference that fans of the TV show Arrested Development really appreciated, if they caught it. A special cameo from Dr. Tobias Funke. Yep, we're back in the Collector's Collection, where this sad blue boy is just hanging out in his cell, proudly displaying his dedication to the Never Nude movement with an unmistakable pair of jean cutoffs. Unfortunately, he's not played by David Cross, but I'll take all the Arrested Development gags I can get. Thanks, Russo brothers. You're aggressively dedicated to the TV shows you worked on in the past. Good job. The 50s sci-fi classic Them gets two references in Ant-Man and the Wasp, with the most obvious being it literally showing up as the film of choice for Scott and Fam's makeshift drive-in at the end of the film. Earlier, however, we get this amusing moment.
It's them.
If you're unaware or can't get it from context clues, Them tells the tale of giant radioactive ants attacking a small desert community and being fought off by the military. It's a great slice of B-movie madness, so bust out that shrinky-dink serum, open up the laptop, and get watching. In Captain Marvel, we finally get the answer to a long-standing question within the MCU. How the good golly heck did Nick Fury lose his eye? In Winter Soldier, he tells Cap,
"Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye."
When trailers for Captain Marvel dropped, fans were abuzz. Since this is starring young Nick Fury, would we finally get to see the gory details? Well, kinda.
Oh, mother!
Of course, this does create a bit of a plot hole, since in Winter Soldier we see a photo of Fury almost definitely being sworn in as director of S.H.I.E.L.D. with both eyes intact and less hair. But whatever. A cat. Y'all. Ugh.
It's a cat, not Hannibal Lecter.
Marvel likes to change its opening logo in order to accommodate either big events or the characters of whatever movie it's in front of. And Avengers Endgame took that to an extreme length by only showing characters who hadn't been dusted by the snap in Infinity War, which, damn, that is harsh. Here we are, just minding our own business, crying as Clint loses his entire family, and boom! Friendly reminder that this is all that's left. Spider-Man Far From Home also features a pretty great opening logo Easter egg. In this case, cribbing from the Indiana Jones franchise by matching the Columbia logo with a similar statue in Mexico. However, that's too easy an egg to crack for our final spot. let's instead delve into a bit of comic book tragedy with the love story of Ned Leeds and Betty Brant. See, in the comics, Ned and Betty get together shortly after Betty and Peter break up, and eventually they get married. Unfortunately, Ned wound up being a bit of a domestic abuser, something that would be explained away by his being the Hobgoblin. Kinda. It's all a bit of a confusing mess, but long story short, it ended in tragedy when Ned was killed while in Europe. Needless to say, the movie version is a lot more, cheerful. And that'll do it. Of course, these Easter eggs are just the tip of the iceberg. There are hundreds, perhaps even thousands. There's MJ's tiger shirt in Far From Home, references to Thor villain Beta Ray Bill in Infinity War and Guardians of the Galaxy, and tons of allusions to villains' comic book roots. But those will have to wait until next time.